Welcome to the Profitable NDIS Provider Podcast, where we're joined by your hosts, Tania Gomez and Bryan. In each episode, we'll be sharing valuable insights and tips to help you turn your NDIS business into a profitable venture. So whether you're just starting out or looking to take your business to the next level, you've come to the right place. Let's stop surviving and start thriving.
Welcome to the Profitable NDIS Provider Podcast. I'm Tania Gomez and I'm joined by my co-host Paul. Hey Paul, welcome back.
Good day, Tania. So good to be back. And I'm looking forward to today's episode.
Yeah, it's a little bit different today. We're going to interview Toby. Toby is a no BS care sector consultant. Tell us more about that, Paul.
Yeah, so I met Toby very recently, and I thought he might have some really cool stuff to say. Now, I'm going to give a bit of disclaimer. Toby is not real. Toby is ChatGPT. And today, we're going to have a chat with Toby about what growing a business in the NDIS looks like, according to what he's seen across the board with the information that's available. Let's have a look and dive in. Say hello, Toby, and we'd like to find out a little bit about you.
Hello there. I'm Toby, your straight shooting, no nonsense consultant for the care sector. I'm all about helping providers navigate growth, compliance, and collaboration with a bit of a whimsical twist to keep things interesting. Let's dive in.
Great. Welcome, Toby. It's great to have you here. First, I want to know what you think the biggest lie providers believe about running a profitable NDIS business.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here. The biggest lie I see providers believing is that they have to do everything on their own to be successful. They often think wearing all the hats and handling every detail themselves is the key to growth. In reality, it's all about building strong teams and collaborating so you can focus on what you do best.
Yeah, okay. So could you dive in a bit more about what collaboration looks like in the NDIS?
Absolutely. Collaboration in the NDIS space can take many forms, but at its core, it's about forming partnerships that leverage each provider's strengths. For example, one provider might specialize in therapeutic supports while another excels in supported independent living. By teaming up, they can offer more comprehensive services to participants without having to stretch themselves too thin. It's really about building a network of trusted allies who can share resources, knowledge, and even referrals, ultimately leading to better outcomes for everyone involved.
Yeah, cool. Hey, look, we hear a lot about person-centered care, but what does that actually look like in a scalable business model?
Person-centered care, when scaled effectively, means maintaining that individual focus even as your business grows. It's all about creating systems and processes that ensure each participant feels heard and valued. This might mean investing in staff training to enhance empathy and communication skills, using technology to keep personalized notes on each client, and creating feedback loops that allow you to continuously improve services based on client input. Ultimately, it's about blending those personalized touches with efficient operations so that every participant still feels like they're at the center of your care.
Interesting insights, Toby. I'm wondering, as an AI agent or AI operator, what does person-centered care mean to you, and how can you help people with person-centered practices?
For me, person-centered care is all about truly understanding each individual's unique needs and preferences, and then tailoring support around that. As an AI, I can help by providing resources, answering questions, and offering guidance that's customized to the specific needs of each provider and participant. I can also help streamline processes, suggest best practices, and even help with training materials so that the human caregivers can focus more on meaningful interactions and building those genuine connections.
Mm.
Yeah, right. So I think that you've got a lot of insight there from a lot of information, but we want to know that it's actually really practical and tangible for people. So if a provider came to you, maybe overwhelmed and stuck, what's the first thing you'd get them to fix, and how would you identify what they needed to work on?
Great question. The first thing I'd focus on is helping the provider get clarity on their operations. Usually, when someone's overwhelmed, it's because there's a lack of visibility into what's working and what's not. So I'd start by identifying their core processes and pinpointing any bottlenecks or gaps. From there, we'd prioritize one area to streamline first, whether that's improving their scheduling system, enhancing their financial tracking, or refining their client intake process. Once we have that clear picture, everything else becomes a lot more manageable and tangible.
So could you give us one quick takeaway that maybe someone who's currently struggling with their time management, with all the administration that they're working on at the moment, maybe a quick takeaway or a quick tool they could use to get the ball rolling in the right direction?
Absolutely. One quick takeaway would be to start using a simple project management tool like Trello or Asana. These tools help you break down your tasks into manageable steps, set deadlines, and keep everything organized in one place. It can really help clear the mental clutter and give you a sense of control over your time and tasks, making everything feel a lot more manageable.
Good advice. Would you be able to help providers compare tools and find one that suits with their existing tech stack and budget?
Absolutely. I'd be happy to help providers compare different tools and figure out which one fits best with their current systems and budget. It's all about finding a solution that makes their workflow smoother and more efficient without adding any unnecessary complexity.
Mm. So something that providers are dealing with a lot in the NDIS at the moment is a rapid amount of changes. There's changes to participants' plans, there's changes in things like travel fees. Many providers haven't had a pay increase for 6 or 7 years under the disability worker cost model. And a question that I get asked a lot about this is, should providers be focusing on growth in this environment, or should they be playing it safe?
That's a really important question, and it's definitely a balancing act. In an environment with so much change, it's crucial for providers to remain adaptable and resilient. Growth can still be a goal, but it's important to pursue it strategically. That means focusing on efficiency, staying informed about policy updates, and making sure that the services offered are both high quality and financially sustainable. So rather than playing it completely safe, it's about growing wisely and being prepared to pivot when needed.
I think the being prepared to pivot is very, very on point. Not necessarily completely changing model, but really understanding that if something changes, you need to be able to adapt to it very quickly. What's one way that providers can adapt when they're running a business with, lots of staff, lots of, systems and software? How could they remain adaptable in a industry like the NDIS when things can change so much, but they're also under a lot of compliance pressure?
One key way for providers to stay adaptable is to cultivate a culture of continuous learning and open communication within their teams. This means regularly updating staff on any industry changes, encouraging feedback from the frontline workers who are directly involved with participants, and being open to refining processes based on what's working and what's not. Additionally, leveraging flexible technology solutions that can easily be adjusted or scaled as needed can also make a big difference in staying nimble while maintaining compliance.
Really, really important question here, Toby. Would you recommend that a provider engage someone, I don't know, like Tania Gomez Consulting, to help with their compliance, staying compliant, making sure they're audit ready all the time so it's not a massive burden on their business?
Let us say yes.
Yes. Bringing in a consultant like Tania Gomez Consulting can be a fantastic way to ensure that compliance doesn't become overwhelming. Having that expert guidance means you can stay audit ready without it draining your time and energy. It's all about having the right support so you can focus on what you do best, providing excellent care.
So good. And, I mean, I'll just throw this in there that if someone is looking at, remaining, nimble in business and looking at ways to grow and develop team and, getting to a point where they can step out of their business and work on awesome things, Profitable Provider is also a pretty good place to play, isn't it?
Absolutely. Profitable Provider is definitely a fantastic resource for those looking to streamline their operations, grow their team effectively, and ultimately create a business that can thrive even when they step back a bit. It's all about having the right tools, strategies, and community to support sustainable growth and success.
Amazing. Hey, Tania, what do you think about Toby's input today in the few questions that we've asked him and what he's given us back?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to hear the responses. I think a lot of it is on the money. I'm kind of sitting here questioning if I need to be getting another job.
Look, to all our listeners, Toby's sitting here unable to speak right now. I guess I have that control over him as a button on my computer. But we trained Toby on some blog posts that both Tania and I have done. We've asked him to look through LinkedIn in posts regarding NDIS and changes that are currently happening. We asked him to identify how businesses operate within this sort of a space. And what it gave us was some really great info, albeit relatively generic to this sort of space. But I think it does highlight that utilizing tools like that allows you just to go, it gives you a bit of a place to bounce ideas. I often use ChatGPT kind of like that for bouncing ideas and looking at things before I go and, maybe blurt it out to the whole community going, hey, here's something I want to try. Do you think that we're going to get replaced, Tania?
I think that elements of what we do can definitely be done with AI. Like if I think about an internal audit as an example, I definitely think that having a ChatGPT, as long as it's trained well with the information and you can cross-check it, I think absolutely there's elements of what I do that will be done better by tech than I could do it. I think the human, for me, what I try to do differently than my competitors and maybe different than AI, not that I consider it a competitor, Toby, please. I'll collaborate with you. What I think I do differently is the hand holding and walking people through the process. And going to audit's a very stressful time. And what people want is someone that they can rely on, that can walk the path with them. And so I don't think that element of it will be replaced. I think that potentially that the content side of things, potentially, I think we're a little bit early for that. I think people are still just trying to figure out, can they trust AI? Well, is the information correct? And really, Australia is quite, in general, Australia is actually a country that isn't early adapters. They don't adapt to things quite quickly. We actually take quite a long time to do that change management process side of things. So I think it'll be a while until we're completely replaced, but I think if we don't start using AI, you and me and providers also, in a bigger way, that it's not being replaced by AI, it's being replaced by somebody using AI well. And so all of our jobs now is to learn this technology and to figure out how do we do things with technology that a human doesn't need to do. It's for me a very similar process that I've been through with my offshore staff over a number of years. I used to have a matrix at a previous company I owned where we would go, okay, anything like what has to be done by the directors. So in this case, maybe it's Tania. What does Tania need to do? What can be done by somebody else, whether that is offshore, whether that is onshore, where what needs to be done by someone in Australia, then what can be done by technology. And that used to just be automation, right? Or we'll automate the welcome email. Someone doesn't need to manually do that. But then now that can actually be AI. So not only do we not need to send the welcome email, we don't even need to remember it needs to be sent, because your whole life journey can be coded and created. So I think that matrix will still apply. There'll still be things that humans need to do. I heard a new term called, actually ChatGPT told me the term, called human in loop. And that really means the human sits in the process. And for me, the human in the loop is always going to be really important. But that human in the loop is going to have to be well trained in how to use technology and AI to leverage the power, because otherwise they're either going to be left behind, or the cost to deliver their service is going to be so much higher than everybody else who is using the technology.
Yeah, 100%. I think you just hit the nail on the head there. We're not going to be replaced by AI, but replaced by people who use it better than you and understand it and can leverage it. Because, I looked in this as a business coach, right? It's handling information and applying information. And if I'm not looking at how do I leverage AI with my clients to get better outcomes, then realistically they can just train a bot, right? But we also want to have that, as you say, hand-holding, walking through scenarios when we're talking about maybe a personnel issue. There's emotion that gets involved in it. When we're talking about finances, there's ego that gets involved in it. And understanding these nuances is not about just replacing with AI, but actually having a really clear plan on how do we leverage that to be better informed, so we as humans can make better decisions.
Yeah. And
that's the really core keys there. Now, I can guarantee to all our listeners that if we had not provided it with some really, really strong prompts and some fantastic information to draw from, we probably would have had some very different outcomes in the answers that we got. Very generalized, not so specific. And we've probably all read posts on LinkedIn or Facebook, which have come as a very generic result of use of AI. But you can see that when you steer the ship correctly, you get actually a very good output. And so training it on your business is one of the great things you can do. If you are writing blog posts, or if you're having conversations with staff around operations, if you're planning new processes or developing programs, teach your AI, whatever you're using, this information, because it can collate those and quantify that information so much faster and more strategically than we can, and give you information back, which goes, hey, you're doing this, this, and this, and you mentioned that this problem over here, and this is happening. Well, this means it's worth going and looking down this pathway, right? And it's really fantastic tool to use. I think we've drawn all out of Toby as much as we can today. I'm sure we could talk forever, and it would happily talk forever. Final thoughts, Tania, on using AI in your business as a provider?
Yeah, I think everybody needs to be exploring how they can do things better with AI. I've met with about 6 or 7 AI companies in the last couple of weeks developing things in NDIS. I was interviewing them to speak at the National SIL Summit, and there's 5 people that are doing a tech or an innovation showcase. 2 of them ended up being AI. Some of it was, very similar. So obviously I didn't want 5 people showcasing the same things. But there is some really amazing tools that are either out there now or that are coming to market very soon that you should be looking at. These aren't tools that will replace things like your CRM. They're not going to replace your Shift Care or your Visual Care or your, whichever system you use. But they are AI agents that sit on top of all your systems to push and pull information and make data entry easier, reduce duplications of effort, administration work. And there was one that I was speaking to. She's from regional New South Wales. She's been running a company for 3 years, and she's got hundreds of thousands of users from 35 countries around the world. Her solution specifically for allied health, around reports and reporting, and so it didn't quite fill the SIL Summit. But I will be keeping in touch with her because the model was amazing, and what she's created just saves time, effort, money, like saves all of those things. So I think if all you're doing is using ChatGPT to write your LinkedIn posts and to write your email replies, you need to do a deeper dive and really think about what are the things you do every day and how can you leverage technology to do it better. That would be my final thought. What about you, Paul?
Oh, look, I think that that whole idea of just using it for content or replying to emails, look, that is playing with the Duplo blocks. Let's actually get in there and understand it. And I know for a lot of people, it's a scary tool. It's a new thing. As you said, Australia is often later adopters into these types of things. But when we understand it, the analogy I gave to someone the other day is, at one point, driving a car was scary to you, right? And then you figured it out and you learned to drive manual, and then you were scared at driving at 100 on the freeway, and then you drove at 100 on the freeway, right? And then you had people in the car, and then at some point it was rainy and you skidded out a little bit, but you saved it and you're okay. And all these things that we've actually gone through and learned and adapted and made mistakes and improved, that's exactly the same here. And so it's learning, it's being open to the information and looking at it going, that might actually solve a problem here. Because if you've got some administration team who are doing a certain level of task, but realistically they could do a high level, but they're bogged in this lower level task. Well, what if you had an AI agent to operate some of those just mundane things so your team can focus on those higher level tasks, which is just a higher level of output. It's a way to build a profitable business and be able to scale your operations without spending more on more people, all that sort of stuff. So lots of fun to be had there.
I think the other thing that stands out for me is that there was a time where we didn't have email. Right? There was a time in history where work was done without email. I can't even imagine that.
I used to have a business with a fax.
Yeah, right? So think about that. And like, some people are like, oh, I don't need to use AI. Oh, it's not going to be a thing. It's not going to catch on. But there was a time, you couldn't run a business now without email. You can't log into, you couldn't register as a provider without having an email because you need a Proto account. So these things will become just part of what we do over time, and we just need to accept that it's actually here to stay. The same as, driving a car from being on a horse to driving in a car, through using a fax to using an email to texting instead of calling. Life just evolves, and I think it's gonna happen. It's just, are you going to fight it or are you going to enjoy it?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, this has been a whole lot of fun. Toby just coming back online. Hey, Toby, thank you so much for joining us today on the Profitable NDIS Provider podcast. I'd love you to just say one last thing and sign off for us.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure chatting with you both. Just remember, the key to thriving in this ever-changing landscape is to stay adaptable, keep learning, and lean on your community for support. Thanks for having me. And until next time, take care and keep making a difference out there.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Toby. And thank you, Tania, for going along with a little experiment today and having a bit of fun with this.
It was awesome. I loved it. Thanks, Paul. And we'll chat to everybody again next fortnight.
Thanks very much. See ya.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Profitable NDIS Provider podcast with Tania Gomez and Paul Bryan. We hope you found today's episode informative and valuable. If you enjoyed the show, please don't forget to subscribe, leave us a rating, and share it with others who could benefit from our insights. Until next time, keep thriving.